Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Welcome back to day number 83. Amazing, day 83. So we continue to talk about state resources in order to determine capabilities needed so that endeavors succeed. So you have an endeavor. Either you are, what phases could you possibly be in? So if you are in shaping potential, then you were thinking about how can I use my potential? How can I develop my potential? Where can we go with this? And then you start coming up with some ideas. So you could be in the ideas phase. All right. So you need a list of your resources. What kind of resources do you have access to? What kind of resources can you get access to? What do you have right now? What are the now yesterday we talked about skills, all right? So who do you have access to? What are the skills that you have access to? This is a very important thing. So I think I talked about this before when I was like really young, I think 17 or 18. Me and my buddy, we sat down and I was the entrepreneur and I said, "Hey, we need to come up with like some idea. We got to come up with an idea and create a business together." So we started to put our heads together. And the first thing that we asked ourselves was like, what skills do we have? What actually can we do? What is it that we can do? What can we do? What are our skills? And at that age, in the community where we grew up, in the traditions that we grew up, we didn't have a lot of skills. Kids these days, if depending on where you're coming from, you could have all sorts of skills by the time you're 18. We could cut grass. So, yeah. Or you could be in the planning stage. So maybe you already kind of have an idea, like if there's a bunch of people, maybe you're already in a company, you're already in a business, you're already trying to develop some kind of program. And you need to take a look, like, do we have the resources in order to push this thing forward? And how? Like, how can we push it forward? How can we use each other's skills in order to do this? And if you don't have the skills, then you need to either gather, as we were talking about yesterday, or grow those skills somehow. All right, and also make sure that you have like the resources that are like the stuff that you need. Now, or you could be in the implementation phase. So if you're in the implementation phase, then let's make sure that the money is in the account. Let's make sure that the gas is in the tank. Let's make sure that the right person shows up at the right time. Let's make sure that the equipment, wait, we're talking about skills. Actually, we were talking about skills. So today we're going to introduce the next idea. What is the next resource? All right, so the next resource that we are going to make sure that we have, now this goes all the way back to our state assumptions checklist. Each of these we could actually talk about. So the first one, if we talk about skills again, just briefly, if we're talking about state progress, then skills shows up when we are guiding interactions. Because you have to make sure you guide, first of all, you have to have the skills to guide the interactions. You also need to be guiding the interactions of people with skills. Also, if you're talking about the state synergies checklist, then you are spotting opportunities for cooperation. Now, you're not spotting like people. You're spotting people with skills. You're looking for people with resources. All right, and so now we move to the state assumptions checklist because we are looking at our data. All right, so data might include data in people's minds, on paper, in information systems, and so forth. Data. Let's take a peek at the example. So, we always kind of go to the hire a salesperson example. We're looking to hire a salesperson, and let's discuss the organization's resources and practices. So, all right, so skills. So what are the skills to perform work? So under resources and practices, it says existing sales practices. Keep in mind the existing sales practices when you are talking about like who to offer the job to, like who can match those existing sales practices, who has experience with the sales practices that we use. support for sales work from the marketing, legal, technical, and customer service staff. All right, so our business, it's not just about having a salesperson. We also have to have other people who support the work of sales. We have to have people with marketing skills. We need people with legal skills, technical skills, customer service skills. All right, and finally, the next one is the support for a new hires getting started. All right, so we need some people who are on the ball, who are training our new people, who are helping them to understand the sales practices that we have, then getting them on top of the system, and then starting to deploy those people in order to get the work done. Now, what is it that salespeople need? All right, so step one, a salesperson needs leads. Leads, so what are leads? You know, I have this conversation like a couple of times a month. What are leads? So a lead, there are like lead generating tools online. There are software systems. There are, I mean, like if you think about Facebook and Google, so these are like the two big marketing engines in the world. Then you also have Salesforce. Yeah, and there's a couple of other ones. But basically, what Facebook does is it takes a look at your behavior, and then it starts to look at how you do certain things. What do you look at? What do you pay attention to? What are your interests? And then they make a profile of like what kind of things you might buy. And then when you have a seller, the seller then picks some categories. They talk about the kind of customer that they're looking for. And then Facebook is able to put ads in front of the faces of people who match up to that profile for that company that's looking for a specific profile type. All right, so leads, it's like these are companies who are able to find potential customers, people who might be willing to purchase your product or service. They look at the behavior of these people and they say, hey, yes, there's a possibility here that this person might need your service. Or they scrape the internet for information. They start to put together people who might potentially buy your product. So as a salesperson, number one, you need leads. Then after you get those leads, then you have to start to communicate with these leads, and they could potentially become customers. All right, other information, intelligence regarding marketplaces and customers. All right, so this is even more like it's kind of on the same line. But if you're trying to sell a product, you need some intelligence regarding marketplaces and customers. You need to know where to place your product and who you're going to be selling the product to. All right, so today is just a simple, quick video reviewing yesterday's work with skills to remember that we need to have skills to perform work. We need to have data, and we need to use information so that we can sell our products and services and find our customers. So how do we make an action item from this information? Tomorrow, I will start to think of ways, scouring the book, Create Crucial Insight by Thomas Buchholz, for ways that we can use these resources in our endeavors. This has been another episode of Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates.